Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep-end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer to learn more. See you this summer.
The right window treatments change everything. Your sleep, your privacy, the way every room looks and feels. At Blinds.com, we've spent 30 years making it surprisingly simple to get exactly what your home needs. We've covered over 25 million windows and have 50,000 five-star reviews to prove we deliver. Whether you DIY it or want a pro to handle everything from measure to install, we have you covered. Real design professionals, free samples, zero pressure. Right now, get up to 45% off with minimum purchase, plus get a free professional measure at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome to episode 377 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio film to documentary to high-end TV and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to royally F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson. Thank you so much for listening. Today on the show, we have special guest. He's one of my filmmaking heroes. He is the director, J.A. Bayona. He's the director of movies such as The Orphanage, The Impossible, A Monster Calls, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, as well as the TV series Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. But recently, he has just brought out his latest film, Society of the Snow, which has been doing incredibly well on Netflix. It's been talked about a lot, and I think it's the #1 film around the world. Society of the Snow is it's a survival thriller film, and it's an adaptation of Pablo Versi's book of the same name, Society of the Snow, which documents the accounts of all 16 survivors of the crash, many of whom Versi knew from childhood. The cast is composed of Uruguayan and Argentinian actors, most of whom are newcomers. If you have watched the film on Netflix, or if you haven't, you've probably heard of this film before because it was made in the past, a movie called Alive. And Juan Antonio, or J.A. Bayona, touches on that in this interview, why he wanted to create his own story and why this film meant so much to him. I sat down and had an amazing chat with Juan. It was really wonderful. I've really enjoyed myself. I could listen to him talk all day, talk about making disaster films. He also talks about creating huge set pieces. The plane crash is incredible. It's unbelievably good. He talks about planning and shooting in the snow, in the cold. Yeah, that's right. They pretty much shot all of this movie in the snow and in the cold. How he creates tension, why he storyboards and uses animatics, why he likes actors' creativity, why he wanted to shoot chronologically and without cutting. So basically, he's doing a take, and instead of cutting the cameras and going again, he keep the actors in the zone, keep them in the mode. And it's mainly because we were shooting in really small, tight areas to get the cameramen in and out, to get the actors in and out. No, they're in the zone. Keep going, keep going. It's just wonderful to hear. He also talks about why he wants actors to take risks and what a typical shoot date is like. Myself and Juan also talk about what the most important moment on set is, how The Impossible kind of happened at the same time of Society of the Snow, and how he's changed as a director from when he made The Orphanage. This is a treat. There's no question about it, and it's not the only treat we've been giving you in this new year. On Tuesday, we had the team behind Oppenheimer, Jennifer Lame, Ellen Morojnik, Louisa Abel and Jamie Lee McIntosh, some amazing female filmmakers who have just been nominated for a BAFTA each. Yeah, pretty amazing. And then before that, we had George C. Wolfe the director of Rustin and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And then before that, we had James Hawes, the One Life and Slow Horses director. I mean, what a start to the year. And it only gets better because on Tuesday, we have The Boys in the Boat producer Grant Heslov. Yeah, that's a lot of podcasts. That's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot of editing. But it's worth it because it's so good. Today's episode is so good. And we will get to it very soon. Just wanted to let you know that we had the premiere for our documentary, All Town Aren't We, that Jack Spring did, all about Gravely Town FC. And we sold out 5 screens at the premiere. It was packed. It was amazing. It was brilliant. The response has been incredible. So thank you, all those that have made the effort, not only to come to the premiere, but since watch it in the cinema, because it's been pretty much packed out as well in the week so far, which is amazing. It still is on, and it's going to extend its run a little bit at the Parkway Cinema in Cleethorpes, and it's also going to go on at Parkway Cinema in Beverley as well. That's All Town Aren't We, our documentary on Grimsby Town Football Club. Pretty cool. More news to follow, where if you're not around Humberside, where you can watch it, I'll let you know soon. Anyway, I hope you've had a really good start to the new year. It's a slow start, but it's positive. Positive things are happening. I hope they're happening for you. They're trickling in. People want to make movies again. Just talk. Be in those conversations. Just keep knocking on the door, because do you know what? That email you send, that phone call you make, that text could be at the right time, because it is all about timing, this industry. 100% about timing, and that's exactly what happened with Juan Antonio J.A. Bayona when he met Guillermo del Toro at Sitges Film Festival. It's all about timing, ladies and gentlemen, because that really helped for him to make his first feature film, The Orphanage. Anyway, you'll hear about that in the episode. Well, a little bit anyway. We talk mainly about Society of the Snow, which is incredible. It's out now on Netflix. Go watch it this evening and you'll be amazed by the filmmaking, just delighted with how they made this movie. And then jump on Juan's Twitter page, which is at Film Bayona, where he is doing so many behind the scenes clips, images, and gives you so much more information about how he made the movie. But for now, sit back, relax, and relish this episode with Juan Antonio Bayona.
Hello, is it Giles?
Yeah, hiya.
Oh, I've got Juan Antonio here for you.
Perfect.
Hello,
Hey Juan, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Not bad at all.
Would you like another tea or coffee or anything?
I have some water here.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you need anything, just give us a shout.
Changing the frame, as you can tell,
As all good directors should do. We're matching clothes as well. Look at that. Bit of purple
Well,
today. Purple on the glasses. Look at us. I love it. How are you? You feeling
I'm
okay?
very good. Yeah, thank you.
I loved Society of Snow. I had a real joyful, disturbing, wonderful evening watching it, because it's so... it's hopeful and traumatic and everything, but I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought it was wonderful. So well done.
Thank you so much. That's
Yeah.
exactly the reaction I was hoping.
It must have been something you thought, why? Because this is a film that, well, this story has been told before, but also I think you wanted to put your slant on it, I take it. But then it is that weird situation for you, because you want to make this film from this story, but also make sure that it is meaningful and have a point, right? Because it did have a point. Is that something you always set out to do here with this film?
You know, it's very interesting when you do a true story, because the facts are not enough. You really need to provide, as you say, a point of view, a perspective, a reading on the story that at some moment in the process, it transcends the story itself and becomes something more personal. And by doing so, you're able to make it more universal. And that was actually one of the biggest challenges in this film, how to transcend the fact and makes it more personal and more universal. And you need to think that this film is based upon a different book from the other versions. This is not Alive, since Alive was written, was published actually the 1 year after the plane crash. And this is Society of the Snow, which is a book written 35 years after the plane crash. So it's more a meditation. It has the weight of time that had passed and has this more spiritual, not religious, but a spiritual approach. And that was the big challenge, how to translate that spiritual layer into the film.
You did it brilliantly. I think that came across so well. I really cared massively about the characters. I really, really wanted them to survive. First of all, I thought the plane crash itself was brilliantly done. I thought it was so well choreographed, so well executed. Obviously, you've done disaster films in the past, and I put that disaster films in a very, very filmic way, as people will like to pigeonhole things. But getting that plane scene right must have been really time-consuming and special. Can you talk us through how you planned that specifically in terms of, obviously, there's a lot of stunts involved. Imagine it was green screen. How did you plan such a big sequence as that?
It follows the same methodology than the rest of the film, since it was based upon conversations with the survivors. We were very detailed. Actually, it was a big challenge to figure out what really happened, because each survivor had a very different memory of what happened. That's interesting how the mind works in that situation. One survivor will tell you that there was a huge air bump. The other one will tell you that it was not a huge one, but 3 small ones, Very interesting, like trying to really figure out what happened, Pablo Bierzi, the author of the book, is a journalist, and he came with this methodology. If 3 of them were in the scene and they agree in what happened, that's what happened, So we basically had these long conversations. We figured out what really happened. The only thing that we didn't know is what happened inside the cockpit, and this is why we never go there.
Right.
We know that it was a human error, but we don't know the exact details of what happened. So we decided, out of respect also, not to get in there, but basically not only because of that, but also because we wanted to make it feel very immersive. So we stay with the characters inside the plane, not except the cockpit. We stay with them, knowing exactly what they knew, which was very little. So not knowing and being inside most of the time, there are barely shots outside the plane. That creates tension and anxiety, because the audience is like them, not knowing what's going on. And then, talking to the survivors, all of them agree that the worst moment was the final crash after sliding in the snow, the final crash. The moment that the plane stopped, and how all the seats move forward, trapping them, creating this kind of like accordion of iron. And all of them experience this kind of like horrible situation that we translate into the screen almost as if like physical pain, We make it very physical, But that's the exact methodology that we did, not only in that sequence but in the whole film, which was lots of interviews, care of detail, being immersive, stay with them, know as much as they knew, and try to be as physical as possible.
And with that, is it storyboarded? You know, how do you like to work that way? Do you storyboard, especially big action sequences? Do you storyboard those, you know, almost within an inch of its life? And then when you get there, tweak it a bit? What's your process?
The plane crash was very technical. So that was storyboarded. We had an animatic, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So we were following a plan. But for the rest of the film, I was hoping for finding ideas, moments, visuals, images in on set that will reflect the story in a much more meaningful way. So I allowed the actors to explore as we were telling the story. We gave them all the information because, first of all, they were in contact with the survivors or the families of the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And second, we provide them the context. So the snow was real, the cold was real, the hunger was real because they were following a strict diet.
Wow. Okay.
Sense of isolation because they spent 6 months in Spain, very far away from their families and girlfriends. So we provide them the information, we provide them the context, and we gave them the chance, we gave them the space on set to try things, you know. By doing so, we there were some moments that and in general the performance was really happening in front of camera, which is beautiful as a director to be able to get to that level of realism in front of camera.
That's amazing you did that. I was going to ask that question, you know, how real was it? And the fact that you said the actors, you know, spent that much time away from their homes, but also the diet situation as well, because I was watching it going, they look like they're losing weight. Their faces look gaunter. And I imagine you shot it in a certain way, certain times, so that it could come across that way.
We shot it chronologically in order to... Yes.
Yes. And it does show, and it's really clever, and it's really nice that you did that. I suppose that comes down to budget as well, and you sort of go, well, look, here's how we want to do this. If we're going to do it right, we need to shoot in order, which obviously all first ADs and producers go, well, we can't afford that. Was that something you were kind of like, look, if I'm doing this project, that is how I'm going to do it?
Yeah. That was from the very beginning. It was try to be as close as possible to reality. So we had to shoot in Spanish with a Uruguayan accent from 1972, which is a very specific language, and try to be as close as possible to the culture they were coming from, the songs they were listening to, the kind of world they were living in, like you can see the rugby, the scenes in the rugby, scenes in the church, scenes in the bar, you know, trying to understand who they were. You know, that was very important, to be as close as possible to their context.
And it comes across so well like that. You know, it's just, like I say, it's so good to get inside the minds of these characters. And I feel that
because they are reacting to that context. You know, they are somehow, the way they behave is because they are coming from that context. All of them were at college. Some of them were studying medicine. Some of them were studying law. Some of them believed in God, some others didn't, and this plays later on. And when they talk about using the bodies of their friends, they had the remarkable behavior of get to a consensus, talking about each one's perspective in a very calm way, which is so remarkable. But at the same time, they had to react against that context. They had to broke ties with that culture, and they had this journey of self-discovery where they really understand not only their shadows in order to become their best. There is a line from Daniel Fernandez Strauch, one of the survivors, who said, "We were never better people than when we were in the mountains." So they had to go through that journey in order to be their best. And by doing so, they had to cut ties with home and the culture they were coming from home. So the context was super important, was very fundamental to understand not only what they did, but what they had to go through in that situation.
And how do you like to get your actors into that space? Because it was, like I say, some of those performances and the journeys that they go on are incredible. What is it that you like to do with your actors, not just on Society of Snow, but in general, to get them in the zone, to get them in the mood, to get them in the right headspace?
Yeah.
Like you said, they were out in the cold a lot. They were out there in the elements, but also you still might be going back home to a hotel or at night. So how do you keep them in the right headspace to be able to perform something that is so traumatic and is so removal from what they're normally doing?
You try to support and help the performance by allowing them to experience emotions that feel similar to what the emotions the characters are going through. So in that sense, it's very important the context. I ask each head of department to work for the performance. So to give you an example, there were no green screen. So they were in real locations and they were not distracted by the green screen,
Yes.
So also, we were shooting nonstop. We never say cut.
Okay.
I hate when you cut and you lose the energy of the actor, and especially when you are in this intense context, So we shot nonstop. And by doing so, I asked Pedro Luque, the cinematographer, to allow the actors to move free on set and do whatever they felt was right at every moment. And by doing so, you can ask the actor to trust the process, to not be afraid of committing mistakes, to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, if you provide the actors with the context, all the information, and the permission to commit risks, suddenly you get to something sometimes that was not expected, and takes the story, elevates the story to an unexpected place, And to me, the most rewarding moment, when suddenly things that you don't expect and improve the script happen in front of the camera.
I love that. It's so immersive and exciting because, like I said, the films you've worked on in the past, I imagine are a bit.
But that's the word, exciting, because it's very exciting when something that you don't expect improves the story.
Yeah.
And that keeps the whole cast and the whole crew alarmed all the time, because we are exploring. We're not just telling the story. We work in the script for years, so we have we try to have a strong script, but then you allowed the crew and the cast to explore and being all the time alert, expecting to improve the film on set.
Which, like you say, keeps it exciting, but also keeps the magic there. Because, like you say, sometimes when you cut and you go, let's go again, you can lose that magic, that spark. I think it's so important, and it's wonderful to hear you say that. How was it managing that on set then? So the camera's just rolling. Would you come in and talk to the actors? Because obviously sometimes it was in very confined spaces as well, inside the shell of the aeroplane, or it was under snow, or it was under a rock, or wherever they were. So are you whispering? Are you coming across and, talk us through what a typical day on a very difficult shoot day would be like?
Yeah. It's exactly as you said. I mean, it's like I try to be as close as possible to the actor. Sometimes it's not easy because the space was so limited. Our set was very small. We had this fuselage that was like 14, 13 meters long. It was with this steep of 35 degrees, so you were sliding all the time in there.
Wow.
We had 29 actors at the beginning, but then the fuselage becomes half of it, because after the avalanche, the 4 meters turn into 7 meters, only 40 centimeters height. And in that situation, suddenly we found ourselves being 19 actors 8 corpses and 2 camera crews inside that space.
Wow.
So you can imagine how hard it was sometimes to get close to the actors, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I managed to be with them. I managed to all the time providing them what I thought it was right, you know. One of the things I do normally is I shoot a lot with music on set.
Okay.
And by doing so, it creates this kind of like mood that not only for the actors allows them to understand what is the tone, the mood we are looking for, but also the crew, because it's kind of, there is this kind of magic when you are looking through the monitors and you are watching the scene with music playing, because it creates this kind of like like magic that suddenly all the crew is focused in what's going on in front of camera. And that also helps the actors to notice that the whole crew is focusing on them. You know, sometimes it's not like that, but the moment you play music and they look at the monitors, or they look at what's going on in front of camera, you get that, you know. And suddenly there are funny moments where you suddenly turn back and you see like the cinematographer crying in front of the monitor, you know, which is like a way of telling you that everybody's into it, into the moment. That's the thing, that to be into the moment, like that doesn't matter how much homework you've ever done before getting to the set. It's the moment you have the camera in front of the actor, that doesn't matter how much budget do you have, how much you have prepared the film. That is the most important moment, and you need to work for that moment to be always better of what you plan.
So well put. And what about this with your crew as well? Selecting actors, but selecting your crew who are going to come on that journey with you. Obviously, you're working with the same people sometimes as well, but when you're looking for someone new, what is it you look for? What is it you say to your crew and sometimes your actors of what you expect from them?
That's a very good question, because I did a movie before called The Impossible. That was kind of, we both films were born more or less at the same time, because I discovered Society of the Snow while I was researching The Impossible. The Impossible had no title at that moment. We were in pre-production, and it was Society of the Snow, the book, that provides me the title for The Impossible and gave me something very helpful in understanding the inner lives of the characters going through a survival situation. So these were projects born more or less at the same time, which was a huge challenge to face the work on this film, trying to make it look like different from The Impossible. It was very different from the very beginning, because the context is very different. You know, The Impossible happened in 72 days. This happens in 72 hours, and this happens in 72 days. Geographic context is very different, you know. But it was very important also to make the film look like different. And in that sense, I work with a different production designer. I work with a different cinematographer who is Uruguayan. The moment you work with different people, the moment your style changes, because it's a team effort, and each head of department tries to approach the story also from a very personal point of view. So by working with different people, you will make it look like different. And in that sense, I choose very different people, very different head of departments by very specific reasons. For example, Pedro Luque was Uruguayan. By doing so, I was trying to avoid. There's a lot of movies shot in Latin America by foreign people that focus in this kind of in the exotic, you know, like they look like being seen by a tourist eye, you know.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yes.
And I was totally rejecting that by having a Uruguayan cinematographer. I was avoiding that. I was looking at the story from the inside, you know. He speaks Spanish like me. He knew the culture very well. and he had gone through some of the most difficult films I've seen in my life, like for example, Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, amazing film.
a movie shot in the dark all the time.
Yeah.
In a single location that had a lot to do with things that we had to face in this one. So it felt like the perfect choice. So each head of department was like that. Every head of department was chosen by very specific reasons.
What is it specifically you say to them? You say, hey, listen, we're going to be cold on this one. Hey, are you going to be, this is what I expect of you. Is there anything you ask of like that? Is that, what you as a director want from your cast and crew?
Yeah, the cast was a little bit the same. I had extensive interviews with the survivors. We did more than 50 hours of interviews before doing the auditions. And by doing so, I had a very specific idea of who they were. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was looking for in the auditions.
Yeah.
Not only some kind of physical resemblance, that it was fun to keep, but sometimes sometimes didn't work, but sometimes work. But also specific. I was looking for the character, the personality.
Yes.
And that was fun because we had a cast that had very similar personalities with the characters they were playing. Mm. For example, we had in the center of our story, we have Numa. Mm-hmm. And I was very, very impressed about Enzo's auditions. Mm-hmm. He has an incredible charisma in front of camera.
Very much so.
He's a very good actor, very good actor. But also, I saw in the auditions that he had all the time this feeling, which was not true, but he had that feeling that he was never doing enough. And he was trying really hard, Mm. That's exactly what Numa was going through in the mountain, that he had that feeling all the time that he was not doing enough. And he was and he was facing that, trying always to make it better and better and better. And the more better he was doing it, the worse it was for him, Mm. And I saw that detail in the personality of Enzo. He had a great charisma, great performance. And he shared that feeling with Numa, that he all the time had this frustration of not doing enough. So that helps you to get where you want to go with the performance. And you really need to understand each of the characters in order to have the best cast to play with.
Mm. And what, looking back a little bit for us, obviously for The Orphanage, which was debut movie, you'd made shorts before then as well. What changed for you as a director from The Orphanage, making that as your debut movie, to now Society of Snow? What's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you as a director?
I think in general my approach to stories are I think I am more open now to explore a story. I was very rigid in The Orphanage. Terms of what I was looking for, which makes sense because when you start, you feel more insecure. You try to hide that by imposing a vision. And the more you work, the more you lose this kind of fear, this kind of respect for the camera, and you feel more free to explore and share your vision with your team, with your actors, with your crew. And in that sense, this film was probably the one that I felt more free in terms of the style, in terms of exploring the story. I had the privilege of telling this story, and I had the privilege of telling it hand by hand with the actors and the real people who experience the story, So I was just open to explore and to try things and try to discover things that will provide me a new look, a new vision on the story on set.
And you think that comes, like you say, from experience, from confidence, from feeling it's okay, I have less to prove, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
Yeah. Also, you need to understand that, every film that you do is a reaction to where you're coming from.
Mm.
You know, and I was coming from doing Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Lord of the Rings. That
Mm-hmm.
I was at the service of big franchises in a production, in a kind of production that everything is every step is very measured, feels a little rigid, you know.
Mm.
So the Society of the Snow was a reaction to that.
Right.
Was like going back to my roots as a filmmaker and trying to put me in a situation where I felt all the time out of my comfort zone. And by doing so, I was open to explore and find things and 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 that made me feel so good, you know, like
Mm.
being open to to the story in a such a different way. I felt like it was a very liberating experience for me.
It sounds it as well.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Just to be able to throw yourself into something you care about,
Yeah.
you thought about since, you know, the Impossible days, and, you know, you get a chance to do that free. And I think that is wonderful, with no name, you know, no stars as in terms
Yeah.
of, you know, in terms of America, Hollywood names. You were doing this with brilliant actors, and you could just play. It felt that way. It felt like you were in a sandbox, and that's why the film is so alive and exciting.
Yeah, it's try to be all the time as much organic as you can. You know, it's like escape from the preconceived ideas,
Preconceived ideas, yeah.
preconceived ideas, and be open to the story, to the characters, and explore. You know, that was fascinating. We worked for years in the script, and we thought we had a solid script, but then we had this momentum with the actors in front of camera, with all the information they had from reading the book and the connection with the survivors. So we were open to take the story one step forward and beyond on set.
We have so many listeners to the podcast, all filmmakers, mainly filmmakers or people who love film. What's the one thing over your time as a director the mistake that you made that you look back now and say, I could have done that, or I should have done something different? What's the biggest hurdle you've overcome, I suppose, is the question that could help our filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, I see now, I see that one of the things I had long conversations with the writers of Society of the Snow. They try all the time to change the fact in order to make them look like more interesting in terms of the drama.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, it was so interesting that because we had the privilege of doing 2 months of rehearsals, going scene by scene, and by doing so, we were rewriting the script, and it was very interesting that there were scenes that never work on the page, never work in the rehearsals. And then I went back to the survivors, and I discovered that the things like these scenes never happen in reality.
Right.
I will give you an example. There is this very, very, I mean, if you're familiar with the story, after they hear on the radio that the search has been abandoned, there is this conversation right after that. It's immediately after that, this conversation that Coco Nikolic gathers all of them together in the plane and tells them, I have a good news and bad news. The bad news is the search is over. The good news is now we depend on us, which is a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful happen. But it was always impossible to me in the rehearsals to get from the previous scene when they hear on the radio that the search is over to that scene. I never understood how these characters were coming from this despair to being all of them together, sitting or in their seats, listening to Coco. Like I couldn't make that blocking work.
Yeah.
I tried in the rehearsals and it never worked. It's like I don't know how to get to from. I mean, then I called the survivors,
Right.
and one of them told me, that thing really never happened. That was an invention from one of us, and it was so good that it stayed in the story forever.
Wow.
But that never happened. So I really wanted to get into the essence of the story and being as close as reality as possible. And that's what the work with the actors in the rehearsals, rewriting the story nonstop, allowed us to get to that essence that when everything was anything was fake, we could recognize it and get rid of it. And in that sense, I told the writers, don't try to change the fact, try to understand what they did, what they did, so it's that kind of preconceived ideas and this kind of being rigid on set that I'm trying to avoid the more and more as I learn what is to work in this.
That's beautiful. What do you think was the thing, and this is what a lot of our listeners care about, is getting their first film made, getting through the door, getting the next one made after that. What do you think it was for you that got The Orphanage made, and then following on from that with The Impossible as well? But really, why do you think you were picked? What was it, looking back now, that made you, obviously your relationship with Guillermo del Toro probably helped, but it's also, there's more to it than that. So why do you think you became a filmmaker? What was it that went from shorts to actually making features?
Yeah, well, I don't have a memory of me deciding to be a director. I don't remember that moment. It was always there.
Really?
I look back, I remember watching when I was a kid, very young kid, Day for Night, Francois Truffaut's Day for Night, and then understanding that there was people making the films. That was a fascinating experience to me. I was probably like 5, 6, 7 years old, even younger. And watching that film, understanding that there was people making the films, that there was a director in charge of everything, that felt fascinating to me. That's the first memory to me of what was to be a director. And I always wanted to be a director. So to me, shooting a film was a dream, since I was a kid, and I, some directors will tell you that they had a camera when they were kids. I never had a camera. I come from a working class family. I didn't get a camera until I was 17 or something like that.
Right.
So it took me a long time to get a camera. I will tell you, the first film I saw in my life was Superman.
Right.
I was 3, 4 years old. And after watching that film, I came back home and I did a drawing of that scene. You see the train on the rail tracks are broken. And at the other side of the page, I draw Superman laying down in the gap of the train tracks, And then I put that paper in front of a lamp, and I was 3, 4 years old, and started to turn on and off the light. And by doing so, Superman was appearing and disappearing,
Yeah.
So I was actually trying to shoot a film, not consciously. I was trying to create a cinematic experience of that page.
Yes.
Of repeating that image in my mind, At that time, there was no home video.
No.
I didn't have a camera. So I was trying to repeat that experience at home. So it was always there. I was always attracted to this idea of recreating that same feeling on the screen, you know.
So I suppose for you then, it was always that feeling of, I am going to direct a film. So therefore it just came naturally and felt natural when The Orphanage happened, I take it.
Yeah. I mean, I met Guillermo del Toro in a film festival when I was 16, 17. And I was pretending to be a journalist to get free tickets. And then doing so, they forced me to interview directors, and I had the great experience of interviewing people like Ray Harryhausen and Jodorowsky, and then I met Guillermo, and we became friends after that interview. He was presenting Chronos, his first film. So we became friends. He always has an eye for newcomers, and he was my short films, my music videos. And then the moment I told him I was going to do a film, he said, I want to be part of it. And he made the Orphanage possible the way it was.
It's amazing. It's such a beautiful story, as is Society of Snow. Honestly, congratulations. You've made another amazing film, another one that you've hit out of the park. So congratulations. I love your work, always have. I think you're a fantastic director. So keep going. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. By the way, I know you're going to go now, but we've worked together, by the way. I was in one of your adverts back when I was an actor, and it was for a beer company.
When was that?
One in Spain. I remember just being soaked. I had to be under a big rain thing. What's the San Miguel, I think it was for? Yeah. San Miguel, yeah. We're in Spain.
You were an actor there?
Yeah, I was an actor in it, yeah. Back when I used to do all that. Yeah. So we have technically worked together. You've done loads, so you probably don't remember them all. But yeah, we were in Spain somewhere. And yeah, I remember getting soaked with a big water cannon, and so we had loads of lines to say in this thing. But anyway. But thank you so much for your time. It's a real pleasure to have you on the Filmmakers Podcast. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. I told you, didn't I say it was going to be good? Didn't I say? J.A. Bayona, ladies and gentlemen. What a guy. He gave up more of his time than he needed to. We were being pushed to wrap it up. But he was like, no, one more. It's just great. So thank you for the PR team for letting us do a little bit more. And I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got so much out of that. I know I did. I feel so inspired now to keep going on this filmmaking journey, whatever medium it is in for you. I hope you feel the same. If you enjoyed this, listen, go on our Twitter @FilmmakersPod and just tell us, share it. And go on our Instagram @FilmmakersPod. Or if you really feel inspired, then write to us, thefilmmakerspodcast@gmail.com. And if you've released a film, get in touch. And hopefully we can get you on the podcast soon as well. Until Tuesday, when Dom Noir sits down with Boys in the Boat producer and George Clooney's only producer, Grant Heslov. But for now, though, whatever you're doing, I hope it's productive, and I hope you feel good about this industry, because it can get you down and it can be really difficult sometimes. And I know it beats me down too, but that doesn't mean we can't take it. That means we put on our big boy or girl coat and just face it. So let's do that. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send that elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.